Good morning, everyone.
In unison, good morning.
Good morning.
Let's see, who was questioning?
I was, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Good morning. When we left off Friday, we were talking about what appeared to be security-related equipment that you had found at Neverland, right?
Yes, sir, on Thursday.
Oh, Thursday. That's right. Pardon me. And you indicated that you had not personally tested the equipment, right?
That's correct.
Have you tested it since we last spoke?
No, sir.
And you may recall finding an what appeared to be an investigator's card with the equipment, correct?
Yes.
Have you made any further efforts since last Thursday to investigate whether or not that investigator exists?
I have not, no.
Okay. Have you discussed Thursday's testimony with anyone in the last 3 days?
Yes, I have.
Who did you discuss it with?
Mr. Snedden and the district attorneys involved in this case.
And when did you do that?
This morning.
Okay. Where did that happen?
In the office upstairs at the district attorney's office.
And what time did you meet with the prosecutors this morning?
I believe I was there at approximately 10 minutes to 8 o'clock.
And how long did the meeting last?
5 minutes, maybe.
And what prosecutors were present?
I believe they all were.
So that would be Mr. Snedden, Mr. Zonin, and Mr. Auchincloss.
Yes.
Anyone else?
I believe Mr. Roble was also there.
And you're telling the jury you discussed your testimony last week for 5 minutes?
Somewhere in that area, yes, sir.
Okay. Who initiated the discussion?
I believe Mr. Snedden did.
And was the purpose of your meeting with him, as far as you knew, to discuss your testimony?
Yes.
How did you know the purpose was to discuss your testimony?
I believe there was a question to ask, that I was asked as to what I had said on the stand.
And who raised that issue?
Mr. Snedden.
And what did he say to you?
He asked me, in reference to the security equipment that you had mentioned was involved in security, if I, in fact, believed it was involved in security.
So Mr. Snedden asked you that or told you that?
He asked me that.
Okay. And do you recall on Thursday, you said that you really didn't know if it was involved in security, correct?
Well, I think I said at one point that it could not be.
You said you didn't know, right?
I don't recall saying that I didn't know.
Well, do you remember you said, look, words to the effect, you hadn't tested it, you didn't know if you could purchase it freely, and you didn't know if it was used by an investigator, correct? Do you remember saying words to that effect?
I don't believe it was exactly phrased in that manner, no.
I'm not suggesting it was exactly phrased. But you said words to that effect on Thursday, under oath, to the jury, true?
Possibly. I don't recall that.
Okay. You indicated you found the equipment and then turned it over to someone, true?
Yes.
Do you know if that equipment was ever fingerprinted?
No, sir, it was not.
Did you ask? Excuse me, you say you know it was not fingerprinted.
No, I do not know if it was fingerprinted. It does not appear that it was fingerprinted.
Okay. Who told you that the prosecutors wanted to discuss that equipment with you before you testified today?
I don't believe anybody did.
Well, that was the purpose of this morning's meeting, right?
It was not a meeting, sir. I arrived early, just to be there for testimony today.
Didn't you just tell the jury you had a meeting for about 5 minutes with 3 prosecutors and the issue of that security equipment arose, true?
Do you want me to explain it?
No. I'd like you to answer my question, please.
We did have a meeting, yes.
To talk about what you said about the security equipment, right?
Yes.
Who spoke at the meeting besides you and Mr. Snedden?
Mr. Zonin and Mr. Auchincloss.
Did they talk about the security equipment?
I believe they did.
Did they tell you anything about that security equipment?
No, sir.
So they discussed it but they didn't tell you anything about it, right?
Yes.
Did they just ask you questions?
I don't recall exactly what the content was. I know there was a discussion about what was in the case, and I explained what was in the case.
Are you suggesting that neither Mr. Snedden, Mr. Auchincloss or Mr. Zonin told you anything about that equipment in this morning's meeting, which took place approximately, I think, an hour and 20 minutes ago?
I don't believe anybody told me anything about it.
Did you tell them anything about it?
Yes.
What did you tell them about it?
I explained to them what was in the case, and I explained to them what I believed that equipment was utilized for.
Did you tell them anything that contradicted your testimony last week?
I don't believe so.
Was everything you said to them consistent with your testimony last week?
I believe so, yes.
Did you have any discussions by telephone with any of them since you testified last Thursday?
No, sir.
Correct me if I'm wrong, that you remember events from November of 2003 but don't remember events from an hour and 20 minutes ago when you met with the prosecutors, right?
Object is argumentative. Sustained.
Is your memory better about November of 2003 than it is about the meeting this morning?
Same objection. Sustained.
Do you remember on Thursday you looked at some documents that were with that security equipment?
Yes, sir.
And remember you began to recite for the jury on the record what was in those documents?
Yes.
And do you remember there was what looked to be a schematic dealing with what appeared to be an outline for a security system? Do you remember that?
It was for equipment, yes, sir.
You didn't really answer my question, did you?
No, you kept saying, security equipment, and I think I referred that it could not be security equipment.
Okay, it referred to videos and cameras, correct?
Covert cameras, yes, sir.
It had various, what appeared to be either communication lines or transmission lines going between cameras, videos, etc., didn't it?
Talked about clock cameras. Talked about fire alarm cameras.
Right. And you don't think blocked cameras or secret cameras are consistent with having an internal security system?
No.
So you think internal security systems never have hidden cameras?
No.
Did I hear that correctly? Internal security systems never have hidden cameras.
Sir, I've never seen one.
Never seen a hidden camera in an internal security system in a residence, is that correct?
I have never personally seen a hidden camera in a security system at a residence. No, sir, I have not.
Okay. Are you aware that they exist?
No.
Okay. So the idea that someone in their residence might have a security system with a camera they don't want anyone to see is something you're not aware of, right?
Sir, the only thing I can tell you is that every security system that I have observed where there was a camera, it was visible.
Have you seen any of those television shows where parents will suspect a babysitter is doing something to their child, so they'll have a hidden video somewhere to see what's happening when they're not home? Ever seen that?
Yes, sir, I have.
Do you think that hidden video relates to a concern for security with a child?
In that respect, yes, sir.
Okay. But after last Thursday you did no investigation at all into anything related to that piece of evidence we discussed on Thursday, right?
No, sir.
Okay. Did you check the cameras that existed in the main house at Neverland?
Sir, I never saw any cameras in the main house at Neverland.
Okay. Did you look for them?
No, sir.
Was it one of your responsibilities to look for cameras like that?
Well, I guess I could back up on that and say that when I was in the office area and when I was in the arcade area, cellar, etc., I did look around to see if there was cameras, but I did not observe any.
Did you ever observe any hidden cameras that someone might install to see if, say, employees are stealing?
I have not personally seen that, no, sir.
Are you aware of anything like that ever existing?
I'm sure it exists. I've just never seen one.
Okay. And never really heard of one existing, right?
I've heard of them existing, yes, sir.
You did undercover narcotics work for many years, didn't you?
Yes, sir.
How many years did you do undercover narcotics work?
I would say a total of approximately 10 years, sir.
In your 10 years doing undercover narcotics work, you never came across a situation where it appeared that people you were investigating were using hidden cameras to see who might be approaching a particular location.
I don't recall seeing or coming across hidden cameras. I recall seeing cameras on the outside of buildings and cameras on top of computers, etc., That would be looking outside to see if somebody was approaching. Yes, sir.
And in your estimation, were they part of what you'd call a security system?
I'd say that was security, sir.
Are you aware of any department stores that have hidden cameras to see what people are doing with merchandise?
I believe most cameras that I've seen are pretty visible. I don't recall seeing any hidden cameras involved in that.
Never heard of that happening.
I can't say I never heard of it, but I don't recall specifically knowing that.
Have you heard of it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Are you aware of any cameras that are sometimes hidden within clocks? Someone can find out what went on at a particular area when they were not there.
No, sir.
Never heard of that.
Only in that diagram you showed me.
First time it ever entered your mind that there may be a camera hidden inside a clock as part of a security system.
That's the first time I had ever been aware of that. Yes, sir.
Okay. Are you an expert on security systems?
No, I'm not.
Okay. Now, you went into an area that you described as the library at Neverland, right?
Yes, sir.
And please tell the jury what you saw in that library area.
Well, there were rows like you would see in a library that had books stacked upright in them. There were boxes, numerous boxes, stacked throughout the library. In the back area there was a little sitting area, had a chair, lamp, etc. Like I said, there was books and boxes cluttered throughout the entire library area.
How many books do you think you saw in that library area?
Numerous. I mean, lots of books.
There were books all over the place, right?
Yes, sir.
And how big an area do you recall that library being?
I would only estimate that it may be 25 foot by 25 foot, thereabouts.
There are thousands of books in that residence, aren't there?
Excuse me, Your Honor. I'll object to the question. Residence, versus what he's talking about, another area. Assumes a fact that he was ever in the residence.
All right.
That's my objection.
Foundation. Go ahead.
I can ask him that question. Sure. Your Honor. Were you ever in the main residence at Neverland?
No, sir.
Never walked in once?
No, sir.
Okay. Would it be, in your opinion, safe to say that there are thousands of books in that library area?
Several hundred, yes.
More than that, right?
I don't recall right offhand. It was a lot of books in there. I couldn't tell you if it was several hundred or thousands.
Did you count them?
No, sir.
Okay. You also said there were boxes of books around, correct?
Yes, sir.
And did you also say there were bags of books around?
There were paper bags that had items in it. I don't recall if they contained books or not. There was also records in boxes. I don't recall what was in the bags especially, sir.
And did you go through all the books that you saw in the library area?
No, sir.
Did you at least try to get a look at the titles of all those books?
Not all of them, sir.
Did you see a lot of books that referred to art?
I don't remember seeing specific topics of what all of the books would equate to. I mean, there was books on virtually everything in there.
And there are a lot of books on photography, correct?
As I say, I don't recall specific art, photography, or exact titles, no, sir.
But you told the jury, I think, that every subject imaginable was there, right?
I guess that was just a summation on my part. There was numerous books on a lot of different titles.
And did you see books on history?
I can't tell you exactly that I did. I couldn't tell you that I didn't either.
Did you see books on theater?
That would be the same answer. I mean, I saw a lot of books. But I don't remember exactly what they all were titled or referred to.
Did you see books on painting?
Your Honor, I'm going to object as asked and answered. It's obvious there is no foundation.
Overruled.
I don't specifically remember books on painting. But as I said, I could not tell you that there wasn't books in there on painting.
When you saw these boxes filled with books, what did you do with those boxes?
Well, for as much time as we had, we went through as many books as absolutely possible. But we could not have gone through all of the books that were in that library area.
Did you see a lot of bookcases?
Case. I don't know exactly what you mean by cases, sir.
Well, let me explain. Did you see items of furniture that had shelves of books in those items of furniture?
That's what I was referring to when I first said there was rows of books scattered throughout the library. And I would estimate there was 6, if not more, rows of books.
Okay, and you didn't go through each row, correct?
There were 3 of us searching. 3 of us kind of divided up the room. As the supervisor, myself, I went through pretty much each row. I looked at kind of some of the books. I looked at some of the boxes that had books in them. I went through some of the boxes, but I don't recall that I saw every title of every book in that library. It would have been virtually impossible. There was just boxes. I could not have opened all the boxes myself and personally look at them.
To your knowledge, did somebody open all the boxes?
Yes.
Were there specific instructions that those who were searching the library were to open boxes if they saw any?
I believe I told them, other investigators that were there, to make sure they looked through the boxes, open them and look through the boxes.
Were some of those boxes unopened, as far as you know?
I personally believe they had all been opened and looked at. Whether the investigators reclosed the boxes or not, I don't know. The boxes that I opened and looked at, I left open.
Okay, but there are boxes that you actually opened, true?
Yes.
There are boxes that appeared to have not been opened before, correct?
Before I arrived.
Yes.
Yes.
And did you note down where those unopened boxes appeared to have come from?
No.
Did you notice that a lot of boxes appeared to be sent from foreign countries?
I did not notice that.
Okay. Did you ever make any attempt to note where they appeared to come from, on any report?
No, sir.
When you opened unopened boxes and looked through them, did you go through every book in those unopened boxes?
I can't say that I went through each book in every box that I opened.
Okay. And if you saw a book you wanted to retrieve, you just took it out of the box, right?
I wouldn't phrase it that way.
Let's take, for example, an unopened box that you found in the library.
Yes, sir.
You grab the box, right?
Yes.
You look at it, right?
Yes.
Doesn't appear to be opened by anybody, right? Right.
Now, when you say unopened, when I talk unopened, I mean that the lid was closed. I'm not saying that those boxes were sealed.
Were any of the boxes sealed that you saw in the library?
Not that I recall.
Okay. Do you recall ever opening an unsealed box? Pardon me. Let me rephrase that. Do you recall ever opening a sealed box?
No, sir, I do not. Most of the ones that I opened the flaps were closed. They were overlaid, and I had to just open up the cardboard top on them.
And you were the supervisor of this operation, correct?
Not of the operation, sir. Just of the library when I was there.
Let me rephrase that. You were the supervisor of the search in the library, true?
Yes, sir.
Did you give instructions to the people who were working with you what they should do if they found a box that was sealed?
Yes.
What were your instructions, if anyone working under you found a box that was sealed?
To open it.
And how were they supposed to open it?
However, they could get the lid open. I don't recall. Like I say, I don't recall seeing one that was sealed that had to be opened. I don't know whether there was tape on it. I don't know how they had to open it.
Okay, but you saw boxes stacked, correct?
There were boxes stacked everywhere.
Okay, how many boxes do you think you saw stacked, if you can estimate?
Rough, 50.
50 boxes stacked in the library.
Yes, sir.
Would it be accurate to describe that library as messy?
Yes.
And did the boxes appear to be stacked in any order?
No.
They just seemed to be everywhere, right?
Yes.
And you mentioned bags had books in them, right?
Yes.
And typically where were the bags that you found?
Scattered throughout the library, in with the boxes, etc., up against the corners, on top of the boxes.
Did you ever see any writing on the bags?
No, sir.
Ever see any addresses on the bags?
No, sir.
Did you find books that you retrieved in any of those bags?
No, sir.
Did you find books you retrieved in any of the boxes?
Yes.
Approximately how many of the books that you retrieved did you find in those boxes?
I believe there were 2 removed that I found, and that they were both in boxes.
Now, you don't know when these books were obtained, right?
By myself.
By Mr. Jackson or anyone working for him, right?
No, I do not.
You don't know who placed those boxes in the library area, correct?
I do not.
You don't know if Mr. Jackson did it or someone working under him, right?
I do not.
And you certainly don't know whether Mr. Jackson permanently ever looked at all these books you retrieved, right?
I do not.
And you certainly are not a witness to any child ever looking at them, correct?
No, sir.
And you didn't ask that any of them be fingerprinted, right?
I did not.
And again, the dates you found these boxes was when?
I believe we were there November 18th.
Okay. Were you only there for the search that day?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Have you ever been back since?
No, sir.
Okay. And as the person who was supervising the search of the library, was there a point person you were supposed to hand any books you retrieved to?
Yes, sir.
Who was that?
That was Detective Cooley.
Was he the only one that books you retrieved were handed to?
Well, I will clarify that. What happened? Stuff was not arbitrarily handed to Mr. Cooley. When it was located, it was photographed, and then I instructed Mr. Cooley to obtain that item, the book, and take it as evidence.
Okay. The books you retrieved did not appear to be illegally obtained, correct?
No, they did not.
Okay. And you don't know as you sit here today whether the books you retrieved were either purchased or were mailed as gifts, correct?
I don't know.
Okay. And if they were purchased, you don't know who purchased them, correct?
No, I do not.
And you don't have any idea who even looked at them, if anyone did, right?
The day that we were there or before?
Before you got there.
I don't know.
Okay. Were any of the books you retrieved in boxes that appeared to be under other boxes?
That part one don't recall.
Okay. You don't know one way or the other.
I don't know one way or another.
Okay. So you don't know if the books you retrieved that were in boxes were all found on boxes that were stacked on top or in the middle or on the bottom of the stack, right?
I could not tell you that, sir, no.
And no effort was ever made to identify the actual location where any of these books were found, other than in the library, correct?
Just in the library, sir.
Now, please tell the jury where the library is in relation to the main residence.
I'd say that the arcade building, in my opinion, is north of the main residence. You walk. You would have, from what I recall, the main residence, you would come out what I would say the back area into a little garden area. There's walkways, and then you would go north to the arcade. You would enter the arcade. If you went straight ahead and through the door to the arcade, there was a stairway that went to the second floor. And then the library was on, I believe, from what I recall, on the north wall of that second story.
And how far away would you estimate is the library area from the main residence?
I would just, an estimate. I'm not real sure. Maybe 50 yards, 60 yards from the main residence.
And to get into the library, do you go through any area that appears to be secured?
I don't know exactly what you're talking about in regards to that. I don't know what you mean by that.
Let's say you want to walk into the building where the library is located. Okay.
Okay.
To your knowledge, can anyone walk into that building or do you need a code?
That part one don't recall.
How did you get in?
The door, there's a doorway. And that door was unlocked.
Okay. Did you see a lock on the door?
It was a doorknob, but I don't recall that it had a lock on it. It was like a regular house doorknob.
Did you see any cameras anywhere that might detect anyone walking in the building?
Cameras I did not observe, no, sir.
Did you search any area other than that building at Neverland?
Yes, sir.
Counsel, we're going to take our break right now.
Okay.